in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.
Social justice, power word, power word, power word. Social justice, power word, power word, power word.
Good evening to our friends on the East Coast, good afternoon to our friends on the West, and good in-between time to our friends in in-between spaces, which tonight especially is very apt, because speaking about in-between spaces is very much what our guest tonight does in a lot of different ways. We are so thrilled and honored to welcome you to the Social Justice Power Hour, to the virtual headquarters of the Biodresen Center for Social Justice. My name is Robert Seda Schreiber. I'm the chief activist here and your host for the Social Justice Power Hour for the past 200 and almost 50 episodes. We have been on every weeknight since the pandemic started. We have not missed one night. Almost 250 shows, my friends. And tonight is something super special, even amongst all of those shows. Tonight we bring you Derek Delgaudio. He is the man behind In and of Itself, which is a film that's going to premiere tomorrow on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, tune it up first thing in the morning. If you don't have Hulu, order it now so you can watch it tomorrow. This film, this man, this journey that you will watch is everything. It is the microcosm of what this Power Hour really is too. It's about a journey, it's about identity, it's about so many things, and I'm not sure what I'm allowed to tell you about it, and that's why I can't wait to bring him on the show and discuss everything. But this is special, and we're going to have a wonderful conversation tonight. But before we do, of course, since you are here, I want to tell you what's coming up on the Power Hour as well, because I said we are here 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, every single freaking weeknight. So tomorrow night, we have Mike Hotpence. And for those of you who don't know who Mike Hotpence is, he is someone who bears a striking resemblance to now our ex-vice president. And because of that, one of the few disappointments about the new administration is that Mike Hotpence has to go into semi-retirement and hang up the hot pants. So we're having a celebration tomorrow night of Mike Hotpence, who has, in the before times, just so you know, in the before times, would dress up in a suit and tie and dress shirt and hot pants and shake his can, both literally and figuratively, for charities, raising over $50,000, doing that every weekend. And he is a hero through and through. And he's fabulous as well. We're going to have a great entertainment tomorrow night with Mike Hotpence. And then coming up on the show, The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. If you don't know this book, go out and buy it, please. This is an incredibly important book. This is a book you've never read before. It is a Black love story. It is a queer love story. It is a Black queer love story, and it's going to be an incredible conversation. We had the author of Crazy about George Harriman, a great comic strip back in the day, so incredibly important about gender identity. Michael Tesserin is going to be with us. Pete Souza is going to be with us. White House photographer under Reagan and Obama, bringing his favorite photographs to us, sharing some behind-the-scenes stories. Kwame Alexander from Light for the World to See, 1,000 Words on Race and Hope. Liz Winstead, our old friend, is going to be back, co-creator of The Daily Show, co-creator of Air America, now with Abortion Access Front, and an incredible voice for reproductive rights, which is obviously a huge component of social justice. True Believer, The Rise and Fall of Stan Lee by Abraham Reisman is coming out in February. This book is going to scratch the veneer off of Stan Lee, and if you want to come and watch me have my heart broken, come watch this show, because I'm a huge fan of Stan Lee, and I know that is problematic, so I can't wait to be educated and schooled about creators' rights, and that is obviously a part of social justice as well. And finally, Rob Zabrecki is going to be with us. You may not recognize his name, but he is someone who has such a journey, from the proto-grunge band Possum Dixon to the work he does now as, I don't even want to call him a magician. He is a storyteller, and he's going to come and tell us a story. And I'm looking very, very much forward to that. So all that and more is coming up on the Power Hour. But as I said, what we have tonight is super special. Derek Delgaudio, I'm not even going to introduce him. I feel like Letterman tonight. Our guest tonight needs no introduction. I'm going to bring him right on. This movie and this journey that we're going to talk about tonight is just phenomenal. Derek, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Robert.
I'm terrified to have you because I'm so afraid of spoiling something from this, forgive me, magical film that you have made. I know you're not a magician, but you have the trappings of one. I know you're not a master of sleight of hand, but you are. I know you are not a storyteller, but you are. You're all these things, but obviously all of these things encompass something far more, and I think you would also argue far less.
We'll go with yes on all of that. Well, I'll agree to everything you just said.
Agreed, then. Good.
Yeah, it is difficult to. I wouldn't say I need no introduction. It's just very hard to give me one. I do a lot of things. My work is a hybrid of different disciplines, so I understand it's difficult to define the work, which is the point of the work at this point.
So, in and of itself, let's start there, because this is what we really want to talk about tonight, for the most part. But I also want to talk about your personal journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that last part you said.
That's okay. So we're going to talk about the film in and of itself. That's our main focus. But I also, if it's okay with you, I want to talk about your personal journey, because there's obviously the film itself encompasses a lot of that. But also, I think that there's so much that would be of interest to our community tonight. And speaking of, let me do a full disclosure that we are doing a pre-tape tonight for the first time. That is because we have gotten to such a platform on the Power Hour that Stephen Colbert himself is poaching our guests. And you're going to be on tonight with Stephen Colbert.
That's right.
So we are pre-taping so we can have the honor of your presence. We want to make that clear to our audience, because viewers, we're still going to be live in the comments section. And our dedicated volunteer, Chris, will be with us. And thank you, Chris, for all the work you do, with links to the film, with links to Derek, with ways to get in touch. And if you have any questions or comments that come up during the conversation, you can either hit Derek up at Twitter, which Chris will give you his at there, and you can at him on Twitter and make sure you mention the Rustin Center and you saw the conversation tonight, and he will respond there. You can also hit us up and we'll get it to him as well. But we want to make sure that the conversation continues, even if it's not quote unquote live.
Yeah,
Full disclosure. So here we are with a film made from your stage show that was directed by the incredible Frank Oz, that was produced by the phenomenal Stephen Colbert. Were these things you imagined at the beginning of that journey?
The Frank Oz part, yes. The Frank Oz part was a very early thought of who would be the right person to help me carry this boulder up a mountain, and so he was. But the rest of it, no, is a bit of a surprise and I unexpected journey.
So let's talk about Frank Oz first. I love this story of how Frank Oz became involved.
So for those of you who haven't seen it yet, in and of itself is a performance, a theater show that I created, I guess 4 or 5 years ago now, and it started in LA. And it's a hybrid performance of storytelling and illusions and conceptual art and performance art and a mix of different things to sort of point to this notion of identity and how we see one another, and when I was thinking about the show and what it means and how to bring it to life, I knew I needed someone to help me who understood understood not the material but the existential parts of it, of what it means to be more than one thing and what it means to to be labeled as a thing, and to do work that transcends whatever medium it is you might work in. And when anyone thinks of the name Frank Oz, if you are familiar with his work, people have a different idea of what that means. Some people think of his work with the Muppets. He was Miss Piggy, he was Grover, he was Fozzie Bear, he was the Cookie Monster, Sam the Eagle, and so Bert and Ernie. So we have that connection to him as a society, and a lot of us remember him from our childhoods. He was a big part of it. And then other people think of his work as Yoda. He was the creator of Yoda, and brought that guy to life. And then other people think of him as a filmmaker, as a director, and he has directed some of the best, definitely some of the best comedy films ever made. What About Bob, and Dirty Round Scoundrels, Little Shop of Horrors. He directed serious movies like The Score, and he's just this phenomenal storyteller. And for someone to be able to have a medium like puppeteering, and to be able to turn it into something so far beyond that, I really felt like he was the guy and would understand what I was trying to do. And so I asked him. I knew him from a previous show that I had done. We had a mutual friend send him to a show that I did in New York, and we met afterwards, and we had some drinks and talked, and we continued to talk over the next few years. And I lived in LA at the time. He would come out and visit me, and I would visit with him whenever he would come out. And so I asked him when the timing was right if he'd be willing to consider directing. And he didn't say yes at first. He said, only if I can contribute. And so I flew to New York, and I, in his living room, pitched a loose idea of what I was thinking the show would be, about identity and about how we're all more than one thing, but because of language and how we use it, we often flatten each other to being one thing, and we have a hard time seeing past that sometimes. So I talked him through the show, and he, after some consideration, said agreed. Luckily, thankfully, and so we created this show, which I performed in LA for 5 months or so, and then moved it to New York City, where we did it we're supposed to do it for 6 weeks, and we ended up doing it for 17, almost 18 months. And it was like 750, 60 shows total. And it was really a remarkable journey. I feel very fortunate to have gone on it.
It's an amazing story, because at one point, and with all of your stories, we've only talked a few times, but every time has been really phenomenal, to be honest. And, I don't blow smoke. I never, it's always true. But every time we talk, it seems apocryphal, but it's absolutely the utter truth. And at one point you say in the story that you were not sure what the story was, what the show was, what the stage, what the platform, what it was going to be.
Yeah.
There'd be these long expanses of silence, and then there'd be an epiphany, or there'd be a moment. And at one point, didn't Frank Oz say to you that he was loving doing this because it was like working with Jim?
He did, yeah. It was a really amazing thing. It was a really amazing moment. Arguably the most meaningful moment of the entire experience for me was the moment where he when he first said that. And it was in our studio back in Hollywood, where I worked with a partner of mine, Glenn Kiner, who's a brilliant artist, and the producers Vanessa and Jake, and all of us were there working on this thing. And yeah, he leaned back in his chair and said, "Man, this is great. I haven't worked like this since I worked with Jim." And you all kind of separately, but together, had that moment of, wow, that was a hell of a thing that he just said. And I asked him about it later on. I didn't ask him about it right then, but I asked him what he meant by that. And it's the fact that we were breaking something. We were creating a little bit of anarchy, creative anarchy at least, and that's what the Muppets were. That's what he tried to do with Jim. Is they were troublemakers. I actually really love what was said in the intro of this. We need a angelic what was it? Angelic
Troublemakers, as yeah.
Angelic Troublemakers. I've often said that I'll break into your house if it means I can leave you the thing you've always wanted. And that's the same spirit that we made the show. And he, as someone who has done, he started with Jim when he was 19, so he was a kid basically, and then never looked back. And he had such an amazing career that he never really got to appreciate what he was doing. And by the time and then he did multi-$100-million films, and you really don't get a chance to break things because you have a lot of responsibility at that level. And so when we got together, there were no rules. There were absolutely no rules of what we could and could not do. And if we saw we were going down a road that someone had been down, we went the other direction. And that freedom was something that he hadn't, I guess, felt in a while. And it means so much that he got to experience that again, and that I got to experience that with him, because he is very good at breaking things and bringing things to life. So it was really a treat.
And I always feel like sometimes I get so excited about talking about someone as a hero of mine. Frank Oz is a huge hero of mine, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about Jim Henson, just to give him the last name, just in case there's anybody who hasn't made the connection. Jim and Frank were there at the creation of Sesame Street. And, obviously the Muppets were integral into the success of that show and the continued inspiration of that show and so much more. So, yeah, I can imagine what that meant, and what a beautiful story. So, identity. Speaking of connections, you were introduced to me by Michael Penn, who is someone that I love, and was thrilled when he came on the show, and we had a very meaningful conversation, and that it meant so much to him that he introduced me to you. And at first, I have to, again, full disclosure, for the second time in the show, when he mentioned who you were, I wasn't so familiar. So
that's not surprising.
No, here's the thing. And I was like, a magician. I was like, I've had my fill of Penn and Teller, but I am a fan of Ricky Jay, so I thought, let me check this out. And you and I had a conversation, and it was everything in a big old bag of chips and then some. It was just a phenomenal connection. Mm-hmm. You sent me a screener of the film, and I've seen it for our viewing audience, and that's why I have you on the show, because I wouldn't put myself behind something I didn't believe in. And I believe in this, and I believe in you, because it's so much about identity. It's so much about what the Power Hour is about, what our center is about, what our mission is, and what our community represents. Yeah. And it really, part of it, and there's so many threads to it, but one of the big threads is your mom, right?
That's a big piece of it. I would be here even if I didn't have a film coming out, because I was raised to be a part of this community. My mother's a lesbian, and I've been marching in Pride Parade since I was 6 years old. So I've been a part of this community my entire life, and I know I understand it. I think I have a unique perspective, because being a straight white male in this world is one thing, but being able to be a witness to a marginalized people and being kind of part of it by proxy is a unique experience, and it's given me a unique perspective to be both an insider and an outsider at the same time. Because while there was a lot of adversity, it was people slandering my mother and then looking at me going, "But you're okay." So is a unique perspective growing up, and part of that, it made its way into the work, explicitly into the work where I talk about it, and so I would be here either way, because it's an important aspect of who I am, and my history, and my current identity of being someone who tries to be on the right side of history and do everything I can to help make this world a little better.
And one of the most beautiful moments in the film, and again, hoping I'm not spoiling anything, but your mother does make an appearance and it's just gorgeous. It's a moment where brought me to tears, and it was just such a beautiful moment because it was so important for so many reasons, because it dealt explicitly with the identity question that you were pondering the entire show, but it also showed this love of family, of mother and son, of acceptance, and it was just this really incredible crystallized moment, and it was so beautifully done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's very proud of the work. She was, I think, worried about me a lot growing up, of what, like any parent does, of where I'll end up and what I'll end up doing. And so it's nice that she gets to experience the work and in a way be a part of it. It means a lot.
So let's go back to the journey of the show itself, and we'll come back to you.
Do you want
to?
Did you show the trailer, or is that?
No, I have the trailer, but
Okay.
let's talk for a moment. Let's get to that.
You're gonna build up to it.
We're gonna build up to it. We're gonna, give it a little bit of a.
I get it.
We're gonna ride up.
Patient, I get it.
Here's the thing. So you're working through it. You're in LA, and then you come to New York, and the run expands from weeks to a year and a half.
Okay.
You have all of these celebrities and dignitaries and famous folks that show up to the show.
Yeah.
And because of the nature of the show, they become part of the process, because basically almost everybody that, actually not almost, but everybody that shows up becomes part of the show in some way.
Right.
Some more explicitly than others. We'll talk about that in a minute as well.
Sure.
When did you know? And I think there are two measures of success here. I was going to ask you, when did you know it was successful? But there are two measures, really, right? It was one, are you getting your message across? And two, is this going to work for other people? And I think those are two separate answers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, in a sense. I mean, really, the measure of success was when people, it's kind of hard to explain, but I could see people understanding what I was saying, and interpreting it in a way that I had intended. It moved past entertainment. It moved past art, even, in a way. And I don't mean superior. I just mean it became something else, and that's when I felt like it had become what it was meant to be. And that's all. Ironically, that's also when I said we could stop doing the show. As soon as that happened, I walked backstage and said, "They hear it. We can shut it down now." And Frank agreed, because they weren't hearing it, and it wasn't a straightforward, we put up a show and people loved it. It was bizarre for people to encounter this thing, because it's very untraditional, and it doesn't please anyone in a way that is it's not trying to please anyone. It's trying to do a thing and say a thing, and it's this bold giant gesture, all compacted into 80, 90 minutes, and people weren't sure what to do with it. But eventually people started to tell their friends, and it started to pick up steam commercially, but that still didn't mean that it was a success in terms of what we were trying to achieve. And it wasn't until people really started to, you just feel it. You like with a friend, you feel like, hey, we get each other, we see each other, I see you, you see me. And I could see they were seeing something, but it wasn't what I was trying to show them. And eventually I could see it in their eyes that they saw it. And then that was when I knew we had finally done what we set out to do.
And that was a question early on that Frank posed to you, right? At one of the moments that you were having a little span of unsureness on where to go, uncertainty would be a better term, or maybe just lack of crystallization of vision. Frank actually asked you, what if people don't get it, right?
He did, yeah. We were in rehearsal, and I was really stuck. I was having a hard time, and he pulled me aside and said, let's go take a walk. Let's go out and get a coffee. So we got some fresh air. We walked down the street, and he pulled me aside and asked me if I was going to be okay. He said, I have a serious question. I want to know if you're going to be okay if this comes out and people don't like it. And we're going to get reviews, and people are going to say things. And I hadn't done anything. I hadn't done the performance yet. I hadn't done any of the material yet, other than like toying with it in the rehearsal space and trying to figure out what the hell I was doing and saying. And so yeah, he wasn't worried about the work. He wasn't worried about himself. He was worried about me. He was worried that he could see that I was really putting myself out there and trying to do something on a high wire. And he didn't mind if I fell, but he wanted to make sure that if I fell, I was going to be okay. And I didn't have an answer for him right away. I needed to think about it. So I told him I needed some time to give me some time to give you an honest answer, because I really didn't know if I was going to be okay. I was so busy making it, I hadn't really considered how not okay I was going to be. And so I took the rest of the afternoon, and then as we were packing up, I told him, yeah, I'm going to be okay. And he asked me why I knew that, how I knew that. And I told him because we had already done, in a sense, what we set out to do, which is making something that both exists and defies all possible labels and categorization. And that is what we set out to do. And it's not easy to create something that exists and defies its own existence. It shouldn't exist, and yet it does. I wanted to create a magical creature of sorts, and that was an acceptable answer. And I also knew that even if people didn't get it, ironically, that is part of the dialogue. That is part of the work. And that if people misinterpret it or aren't able to see it for what I believe it to be, that's also part of what the work is about. It's about being misunderstood and misrepresented by others, and how that misunderstanding and misrepresentation reflects back to us, and it's a mirror for us, and we see ourselves, but that image is distorted, and we start to believe that distorted image and think that that's who we really are. And so yeah, I told him I was going to be okay either way, and I still feel that way. I still feel that way about the film.
Well, of course you should, because people freaking get it. I mean, I have spoken to so many folks who actually had the pleasure of seeing the stage show, and a few people got to see the film, so it's been shown here and there, in short spurts. And I want to talk about that afterwards too, after we show the trailer, is how I think it's so perfect that it's this moment that it's finally getting its mass release. But people get it because we had on a concrete example. We had on Liz Glazier, who's a lesbian comic, just last week. And she spent about 10 minutes of her whole power hour talking about your film, your play, because she had seen the play and the whole idea of the identity. And she had the card talk show host and what that meant to her. And she was the last one chosen. And I won't go into it any further to spoil the movie and the play, but it was so meaningful to her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
She carried that all the years after, and we talked about that for a good portion of her time, and it was fabulous.
That's really great to hear. Yeah, I think with the people it resonates with, it resonates the right way. It's a question we all have. Who am I? How do others see me? How do I see myself? And how does the fact, how does others' vision of me affect the way that I see myself? These are all things that we struggle with every single day. I turned that into something we can look at together.
And speaking of, let's look at the trailer.
Great.
So we'll show you the trailer for In and of Itself, which again opens tomorrow, tomorrow on Hulu.
Exactly.
If you have Hulu, watch it. If you don't have Hulu, order Hulu and watch it. I'm telling you, I don't put myself behind things unless I really believe in them, and this is something I believe in. And if you want to come over our house, we can socially distance watch it. I wish we could do it at the center, and when safety and sanity allows, we will. But here's the trailer, so you can kind of get more of a crystallized idea of what we're talking about.
Every secret has a unique weight to it, and you can only carry them for so long.
You think this is a performance. You see a man in a theater, there's an audience. It is difficult to see past what this looks like. You can see it for what it is, or you can imagine what it could be.
Before you came in here, there was a wall. Maybe you chose something you feel reflects who you really are in this world. The conceptual artist, the teacher, Someone here is an idiot. Idiot, wherever you are, please raise your hand. That's about right.
I come here day after day after day and attempt to defy some odds. I do not expect you to believe anything you're seeing. Only a lucky few get to know how this story ends.
Two things are about to happen. One of these things you will see, and the other thing we will see. We get to see you transform into something else.
I don't understand.
I know.
We are all the unreliable narrators of each other's stories.
But I'm not just defined by what you see. I'm also defined by all the things you will never see.
There it is.
Here's the thing. The film is so good and so powerful. I was choking up watching just the trailer, remembering all of the quote unquote magic that's in it. It is, I have to reaffirm to our viewing audience, to our community, how incredible this is and how worth it. And this is the moment for it too.
That's really true. The moment part is definitely true. I appreciate you saying how it's nice to hear how much it affects you. And I do know that, yeah, it is. If there was ever a time for this, it's now. And I just say that because I got to experience it in real time of what it was like before, because I started working on this in 2015 is when I started writing it. Really, really sat down to start writing it. I had, been thinking about it, but sat down and started the first page in 2015, and then did the first shows in mid 2016, and then after again in 2016 and 17. So I got to kind of experience in real time the world shifting through the lens of this performance, and it was very interesting to watch from my perspective, because the audience isn't passive in this performance. They are asked. I asked a lot of them. I asked a lot of some of them, but I asked something from everyone, and to contribute. So how they come to it, I can see in their actions. I can see the choices they make, and how they're approaching this work, and it changed dramatically over the last few years. And for instance, at the beginning of the performance, everyone who enters the theater is asked to select how they see themselves, and there's a little tag of cards that are, I am a banker, I am a artist, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a son. 1,000 cards on a wall, and they're just to choose one of how they see themselves, and that's kind of their ticket into the theater of sorts. And people really changed how they were making those choices. People were choosing space pirate and ninja a lot, and then and fun things. I'm a pixie or whatever. And over time, especially after Charlottesville, was really the moment where everything shifted and how people approached the work really changed. And it was with an authentic. They were meeting me with the authenticity that I had been meeting them with, but it took the world outside the theater to get them to that place, and it really did shift their perspective, and it changed how they approached the work in a dramatic way. And I could tell it meant more. It was a conversation that they were willing to have now, and now's a really good time.
But it's also the journey of the film itself, because it was supposed to be released way before, and with COVID and everything else, it was pushed back, and that must have been, you know, for lack of a better term, heartbreaking. It must have been really hard for you to see that because you had worked for all these years on it.
Yeah, it was disappointing. We were set to do South by Southwest. That was going to be the big premiere. We were really stoked about being accepted, and people were going to see it. And we were going to see it with people in a theater. It was so exciting. And then COVID hit, and South by was one of the first things to get canceled. And so we were really bummed about it. And we even planned on doing an impromptu screening at the Ed Sullivan Theater, where Colbert does his show. We was like, screw it, we'll do it ourselves. We'll have our own screening. And then everything got shut down, and it was really hard. But it was only hard briefly, because then the context of the world started to sink in, and the real tragedies of it became evident very quickly. So it was hard for a minute. And once we got over ourselves, it was fine. It was just about what's next. How do we deliver this to the world? And luckily, Hulu stepped up and said they wanted to. And we had a few people interested, but they were the ones who really seemed to get it. They really got us. They got that this wasn't just something to throw in a stream with a million other things and let it sail by or not, and maybe you see it, maybe you don't. They realized this is something worth telling people about and worth showing the world. So it's been kind of a waiting game of putting this out. When do we put it out? And after 6-7 months of contracts and whatever that is to figure out how to get a movie on a platform, then it became, do we release it before the 20th, January 20th, or after? And that was a big decision, because we could have released it during the previous administration, but it didn't. The previous administration didn't deserve this film, so we waited, and we're glad we did.
I really think something that has been playing in my mind is Nina Simone, "Feeling Good," brand new dawn, brand new day, and John Legend did it last night at the inauguration concert, and it's a pretty obvious connection right now. So I'm not, I don't think I'm any genius for thinking of it, but it has been just a beautiful repeat in my mind, and I think that your timing is impeccable, and I feel like your journey has been a lot of that. Has been this mix of careful planning, but also wonderful serendipity. And I think this is a crystallization of that. The film coming out tomorrow, having this perfect cornerstone to the inauguration, to this sigh of relief, to this call of action, to this new belief in what our future can hold for us again. And I think the film is so representative of so much of that.
Yeah, I haven't quite figured out how to put it into words yet, but yes, it is an extraordinary moment in time to be releasing anything really, but to be putting a work of art into the world right now, it means something. And what this work says happens to be in line with, I think, the spirit of where the world is at. I mean, the zeitgeist of what we're actually striving for, and the kind of the dark forces that get in our way. And I think most people are inherently good and striving for goodness and trying to be decent in this world, and we get in our own way sometimes, and so I'm really, like, in a weird way, honored to have this be the moment, because it just feels right. It feels appropriate. It feels right, and it feels like very few. I don't know that I'll ever do anything again that aligns with where the world's at in such a precise way.
Can I just say that I honestly have no freaking doubt that you will? No, I do. I think that
good. I'm glad you're a believer, because
I am not messing around here. I am so taken with you, and I was so not prepared to be as I mentioned before, to be totally, full disclosure for the third time. I was prepared not to be. And what your film did, what an experience it is. And it spoke to me in so many ways, and it spoke to the center's mission in so many ways, and to what this Power Hour tries to be each and every night. And then on top of everything else, this good friend of ours pops up in the film.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Amazing.
And this is, for those of you that don't know at home, this is Gavin Grimm. Gavin Grimm is the young man who fought for his rights as a high school student, as a transgender individual, to use the bathroom that he absolutely had every right to use and was being excluded from. And he went all the way up to the Supreme Court with the ACLU. A huge hero of mine personally, a huge inspiration to our work here at the center. And he actually, on our side of things, was the first person to come and do a fundraiser for us. We had a fundraiser brunch literally less than 2 weeks after we had opened our physical space in Princeton, New Jersey. And Gavin was incredibly magnanimous. He was in town, and he came and did this wonderful brunch, bagels and coffee, and he is a beautiful soul. And then we were able to pay him back, both literally and figuratively, by giving him a scholarship to become a teacher, because we wanted him out of the courtroom and in the classroom where he belonged.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching your film, and then you can take it from here. Gavin shows up in an incredibly inspirational and wonderful way in and of himself.
Yeah. So in the performance, I ask, I say kind of out of the blue that I need someone to come back tomorrow to the next performance. Someone from this audience, I need someone to come back tomorrow. And I tell a brief story of why. It's because we have a book that I've been sending out every day, and every day it's come back. And in order for it to continue, I would need someone to do that. So, but I take it back. They don't know that yet. I just say I need someone to come back tomorrow. It's a leap of faith on the audience's part. And some nights we get one sheepish person. Some nights we get 10 hands go up at the same time. Some nights no hands would go up until someone felt guilty enough because they felt bad for me, that they would raise their hand. And one night, Gavin raised his hand, and I don't even know if I knew it was Gavin when I pointed to him, but I knew who Gavin was because I had been following the articles in the New York Times and the news and seen Gavin. And so I don't think I knew who he was when I chose him, but he'd come with a friend, and another friend had told him to come see the show, and may have even told him, like, hey, if you ask, raise your hand, because that happened too. But they don't know what that means. So yeah, I was fortunate enough to choose Gavin. It's on film. I think he was the first person to raise his hand, and I just usually go with the first person who does. And he took this object home. And what it is I send I kick them out before the show is over, and I give them a book, and I ask them to write down what they've seen so far, and I want them to imagine how the show ends. So they don't see the ending. I have them write down what they've seen so far and imagine how it ends, and kick them out and hope come back the next day. This was not staged in any way. It happened every single day, where someone would raise their hand. I would kick them out and give them this book and hope that they come back. But that meant someone else, hopefully there was a person from yesterday who had come back to give the book. And so Gavin came, he took the book, he came back the next day, and he got on stage and read a beautiful passage of how he imagined the show would end. And it was really remarkable because he embodies so much of what the show is about. And he's such a central figure in the dialogue of the world around a lot of these issues. And it was such an honor to have him there representing not just that community, but these ideas. And it was surreal to have a literal a literal manifestation of the metaphors of that are in the show appear on stage. And most people didn't know, obviously, who Gavin was, but I certainly did. And we had a beautiful discussion afterwards, and I thanked him very much. And yeah, it's just really, really a thrill to have him be a part of this work now forever. Sorry, I can't hear you, Robert.
Because thank you, I muted myself so I wouldn't interrupt your story. He radiates so much of what the entirety of the show is about.
Yeah.
Again, it's that talk of serendipity, and it's something that I've come to believe in so wholeheartedly as the center has moved forward in our journey. There's been so much of it where we've met folks who have become either important at the exact moment we meet them, or there's somewhere down the line where I'm like, oh my gosh, we had that wonderful experience with this person, and now I'm able to put that in context, and it becomes crystal on what that meant. So it was just an amazing thing when you think about what the show is, what you represent, what the identity question is, or the heart of it. He encompasses all of that in such a strong, bold, and beautiful way.
Yeah, really. And I told him, like, I made it very clear to him that what I was doing was theatrical and performative, and he's the real deal, and I'm a fraud. I'm an artist pointing to these things, and he's in the trenches fighting the war, and that's a huge distinction. And I made sure that he knew that the work he's doing is far more important than the work people like me are doing. And really, I so admire and respect both what he's done and what I'm certain he will continue to do.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I respectfully disagree wholeheartedly, because I think that culture and the arts are really important in the fight too, because not only do they inspire, but they inform. Because there's going to be a section of folks that watch your film tomorrow on Hulu, right? Who are you're going to be preaching to the choir, as it were, right? They're going to have like myself, going into it believing in identity, believing in everybody being free to be who they are and being welcome, and all communities being open and honest.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a whole mess of folks, and I hope you're ready for this, that are going to be transformed by watching this. I guarantee you, because again, this is what I really wanted to get to, and I'm so glad that we did. And you opened the door, as it were. That when people came to see your show, they were prepared in some capacity for what it was. They were open to the experience. But tomorrow, when it becomes something that is shared by the world on Hulu, you're going to get a whole other set of folks who are not prepared for it. But there's no way you are not moved by this. You are not made to think by it, and you are not transformed by it.
Right. I didn't think about that in terms of, I guess you're right. Because people like either go to the show, buy a ticket or whatever, so they have some expectation. But there will be a lot of people who just click on a thing, they go, "What's this?" and they watch it. And that may all people, that could go the other way too. But I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it is an access point for a dialogue that a lot of people weren't intending to be a part of. If that is the result, that's really great, and that's exactly, I guess, that's the highest achievement we could have accomplished with this, is to create a bridge between worlds, in a sense, and get people to kind of be a part of this conversation in a way that they hadn't expected, or to be a part of it at all, and know that it's okay to have this conversation. I think part of what is conflicting for people is I am a cis white male, average, as a reviewer recently pointed out, the most average man on the planet. Which is true. I'm a normal guy, but because of my mother and because of how I was raised and kind of the experiences I've had, I've had a unique opportunity to develop a unique perspective on things that is, I think, a little uncomfortable sometimes for people because they don't understand how it came to be. And I think the more that people who look like me and are like me have these conversations, the more the better it is for everyone. One of the big questions early on was, which I discussed a lot with friends and scholars, was the use of the I am cards. And because it is clearly the iconography of the I am a man signs that were carried at the Memphis sanitation strike and have been used in other contexts and artists have used. But that's a big symbol to put up on a wall, especially for someone like me. And it wasn't done without thought or care. And I think the more that we can expand and intersect and have these conversations in new ways, it allows for other people who look like us or think like us or feel like us to also be a part of the dialogue, which is really, obviously, really important and necessary for it to have any sort of impact.
Well, there are so many threads to pull at that, and I know that we're coming down to the wire, and I knew that our conversation would go so quickly and so wonderfully. But here are some of the threads that you just said. First of all, obviously appearances are deceiving, which is one of the basic platforms of the show. I am really very much apt to be a spoiler here and talk about the wolf, but we'll leave that for the film. And
it's fine. Which part of it? Yeah, it's fine.
Well, no, it's just interesting because there's that. This is what something purports to be, or this is what something appears to be, but this is what it actually is, or this is what they encompass in their being.
Yeah.
Is when you say you're the most average guy in the world, obviously that's untrue in so many ways, but especially in the talent that you hold within you, not only as one of the masters of modern magic, not only as a sleight of hand impresario, not only as a masterful storyteller, but also as a visionary, as to be able to put these things together in a way that we've never seen them before.
Right.
So there's that. There's also the idea of, I think there are three audiences that are going to watch this movie tomorrow.
Okay.
There are the people who come to it expecting what it is, or being attuned to what it is, and having their ideas and their beliefs and their feelings strengthened and fortified and crystallized, and maybe even their identity bolstered. There's that audience right there, and that's such an important thing, in and of itself. But then there are the folks who will tune in because they're scrolling through Hulu and they're like, oh, what's this? Let me check it out. Yeah. And they're going to be engaged from the get-go. And they're going to be bolstered and fortified and informed in a different way from an outsider's point of view.
Right.
Then there's going to be a third party, which I didn't even think of until you were talking. This third party is going to be people who do identify, who are a member of a marginalized community, who are someone who's unrecognized or disenfranchised or misunderstood. They're going to watch this and they're going to see it as their bridge, and they're going to call their mom or their dad or their cousin or their lover or their therapist or whoever it may be and say, watch this film. And it's going to open up a conversation for friends and families and allies, I think, in an exponential way.
Well, if that's the case, that's really wonderful to hear. I hope that's true. Otherwise, it's just another thing on the internet, on streaming that you can watch.
No, again, I represent a community, and as yourself, I am a cisgender, mostly straight white guy. So when I present things to my community, when I present things to the beautifully diverse folks that watch this show, I am very careful in what I present.
Right.
And I wouldn't say these things. I wouldn't have you on. I wouldn't promote this show if I didn't utterly believe in your message and its message and what it can really achieve for so many folks.
That's wonderful. I have a question.
Yes.
Because have you encountered that for yourself? Have you had pushback? Like, because I mean, I don't want to use the word position of authority because I know that's not what you're about. But like, have you encountered that you shouldn't be the one saying these things or
oh yeah, this has been an ongoing conversation. When I started the center, you know, all the work that I've done, I've always been really, really careful and cautious and incredibly open to making sure that I am, quote unquote, passing the mic as much as possible.
Right.
And, you know, and what I have to say is no false modesty. I'm really proud of this show, of the Power Hour, because it's become a microcosm of that idea. Yeah. Because every time I have someone on the opposite side where you are right now, you know, they are someone from the transgender community, a Black, Indigenous people of color. You know, it's an author, an activist, an organizer. It's someone who can speak to a community. And again, nobody represents, you know, no one person represents any community. So what I have the privilege of doing here is amplifying voices.
Right.
And making sure that I am doing as much listening as possible. And, you know, the vast majority of time, I love putting baby in the corner right here and giving the full screen and the full time to someone so they can express their views and allow our audience, our viewers, to hear directly from that community.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really nice. I just, I can only imagine, again, like I've given a little more leeway, I imagine, being in the theater world than actually, you know, having a center for social justice. You need to make sure that those, you know, that you understand the context and all those things in a way that, yeah, it's really impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, and it's difficult, to be honest. We also have a very diverse board. We have a board that we made sure, and not to be representative of different communities, because they're all very, very important folks in and of themselves, but that we have every voice represented, every community represented as much as possible. And I appreciate you asking that. And I fuck up every now and then, you know, and I'm not perfect. You know, there's sometimes I speak out or up and it's not my place, and I will continue to learn and to evolve and to grow and to take this journey with everybody else.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
And gosh, we are at the end of our Power Hour, and I am devastated because I did also want to talk to you about your book that's coming out.
Next time, we can talk about that next time. I can come back.
I would love that. When it's time for the book, you come back and we'll talk about the book, because I'm sure it'll be just as meaningful as this movie, which premieres tomorrow on Hulu. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. I cannot stress strongly enough that everybody should watch it. You should watch it with your family, socially distant, if necessary, Zoom together, however you can share the experience. It is truly phenomenal. And I thank you so much for this hour. You are a very, very special person, and I mean that in the best of ways.
I appreciate that. You too, and appreciate the work you're doing, and I'm just happy to be here and a part of the work that you're doing, and hope to make new friends along the way, and you know, thanks for having me.
It was an absolute pleasure and an honor, my friend. Really, that your show is blowing up, and to come here meant a lot to our community, and thank you for that. And do me a favor, you tell Stephen Colbert tonight.
Yep.
We'll allow him to poach one guest, but the next time it's all out talk show wars.
I'll tell him. Yeah, it won't happen again.
All right.
All right.
Well, my friend, love to all of you. Take care.
Thank you.
So everybody, that is Derek Delgaudio. And now that he is off the screen, I will say it again with no hesitation whatsoever, except for pause for effect. This is a film you want to see. this is an experience you want to have, and watch it tomorrow, and then come back and let us know how meaningful it was to you. This has been another truly phenomenal and special Power Hour. We want to thank Derek for coming out in the midst of all of that. His dance card is full, and the fact that he came out to us is really quite special. We appreciate it. We are here, as I said, every freaking weeknight, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Come back to the Power Hour. Please share time with us, share community with us. Until tomorrow night, about 22 hours and 55 minutes from now, be good to each other. Be good to your families, chosen or otherwise. And most importantly, these days, these moments, especially for the next few days, few weeks, few months even, be good to yourselves. You deserve it, and you need to take the time because we want you here. We need you here. Thanks so much for being with us. Much love and respect, everybody.
We need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.